Do you keep missing or ignoring the red flags in your relationships? If so, you'll want to watch this video where I share the top 5 relationship red flags that you don't want to ignore, especially at the beginning of a relationship. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so that you can be notified every time I post a new video on the topics of moving on from toxic relationship to healthy love and self-love. So you know that hairstylist that you tell everything to about your life and your relationships when you're sitting in their chair for hours? Well, for 15 years, that was me. I'm Mischaela Richter, and I'm a personal growth and self-love coach, and I help people pleasers with a history of toxic relationships move on towards healthy love and self-love. And now I want to share all that I've learned with you so that you don't have to make the same mistakes that me and my clients have made, and you can maximize your joy and minimize your suffering. Okay, let's get into it. So if you have a history of disappointing or short-lived or toxic relationships, then you might have a problem with ignoring or missing the red flags. Okay, so picture this. It's early on, you've just started dating someone, things are going pretty good, and suddenly they say or do something that makes you go, right? There's something about it that has made you uncomfortable or just doesn't sit well with you. But then you just sweep it under the rug. You make excuses for that behavior. You justify that behavior. Basically, you're trying to magnify the good aspects of this relationship and minimize any kind of negative aspects or red flags that are popping up. First of all, why do we do this? The short answer is, on some level, whether unconsciously or consciously, we don't actually believe that we deserve better. So we are settling for whatever we get because we'd rather have this thing that's pretty good than nothing at all. So we convince ourselves that we're happy and it's good enough. Self-love work is about increasing our sense of self-worth so that we really embody it, so that we really deeply believe that we deserve exactly what we put out there, that we deserve kindness and consideration and love and respect. So people who really truly embody self-love and self-worth recognize the red flags when they happen. They feel into that sense that something's not right, and they either speak up about it or they remove themselves from the situation. So if this is resonating for you and you feel like you need a little help when it comes to recognizing those red flags, I'm going to share with you 5 of the top red flags that you want to keep an eye out for, especially when you first start dating someone. It's a lot easier to remove yourself from a situation when it's early on and you're not deeply attached to this person, right? So keep an eye out for these red flags so that you can remove yourself from the situation while they're going and still good. Okay, so red flag number 1 is love bombing. We've heard about this one a lot. So this is when they make really lavish gestures or offer declarations of love or praise about how amazing and perfect and wonderful you are very early on in the relationship. So this is a tricky one because it can feel really good to receive this praise and receive these, lavish gestures. But you want to keep an eye out for this one. So here's where it can start to verge into unhealthy behavior. You want to keep an eye on this when it happens very early on in the relationship, when it doesn't feel proportionate to the amount of time that you've spent together, and when you feel like they don't know you that well enough yet. So why is this a red flag? When somebody puts you on this pedestal very early on in the relationship, really there's nowhere else for you to go but down, right? This person has fallen in love with the idea that they've made up in their mind about who you are, this fantasy of this perfect, incredible human that you are, this perfect, incredible partner that you are. So that's a very hard standard to live up to. So the moment that you start to display any kind of human qualities, any imperfections, anything that doesn't jive with this fantasy that they've created, they're going to be disappointed, right? And off you fall off that pedestal. Love bombing is a very common behavior in narcissists. So if you are a people pleaser or an empath, you and the narcissist tend to find each other, so you really want to keep an eye out for this type of behavior. So if you suspect that you're being love bombed, get really curious and maybe ask them about their dating history. See if there's any red flags in there. See if you have any mutual friends. Ask them about their dating history and see what you can find out. Because chances are there are some alarm bells that should be going off here. So either do some digging, do some sleuthing, speak up about it, say I'm not really comfortable with this, or just remove yourself. Easier said than done, but your future self will thank you. Red flag number 2 is not listening to you. So you're hanging out, you're telling them a story about something that happened in your day or something that happened in your friend group, and you start to get the sense that they've checked out. Like they're just giving you one-word answers, or they're not making eye contact, or they're on their phone, or they're not engaged in the story that you're telling. Now, we all have moments where we get distracted, something takes over our attention and our mind. It happens, right? But if this is something that's happening repeatedly and you don't feel heard or listened to, then that's a red flag. Especially if this is someone who takes up a lot of airtime with their own stories and they talk about themselves a lot, but they're not willing to listen to you talk about yourself, right? So there's not a reciprocity there. This is a red flag because it might indicate that they're just not that interested in getting to know you. Maybe it's like they're just interested in physical intimacy, or they're just interested in, the sort of on paper portrayal of a relationship, but they don't actually want to get to know you on a real connected level. So if this is happening, bring it up. Say, hey, sometimes I feel like you're not really listening to me when we're talking. If they care, they will respond in a healthy way, which is to hear the words that you're saying and take some action to correct it, right? So they might be like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I was doing that. My apologies. I'm going to do better going forward. And if they get defensive or reactive, or the conversation doesn't go well, then that's a good sign that it's time to get yourself out of there. So as I said before, this could be that they're just really not that interested in getting to know you, or maybe they're just not capable of focusing on someone other than themselves. So if you're not being heard or understood, this relationship is not going to work, because being heard and understood is like a foundational, crucial element of a healthy and supportive relationship. So if you're seeing signs that this isn't the case early on in the relationship, chances are it's not going to get better and you need to remove yourself now. Red flag number 3 is emotional immaturity. So what happens when feelings come up in this relationship? Are they able to communicate or express what they're thinking and feeling, or do they just withdraw? Do you have to really pull out of them what they're thinking and feeling? Are they really defensive when conflict arises, or things don't go the way that they hope they would or that they expect them to, right? So paying close attention to the way they handle emotions, even when you bring up your emotions. So if you are sharing how you think or feel, how are they responding to that? Are they engaging in that conversation, or does it just fall flat? Right? So it's really important that you're with someone that is emotionally aware, emotionally intelligent, or at least is working on it, right? So sure, we all have room to grow in terms of emotional maturity, but if there's an openness and a willingness to explore this topic and do better, then great. But if they just shut down and are unable to deal, then that's a red flag if you want to get yourself out of the situation, because relationships are going to bring up feelings. Feelings are going to need space to be supported and processed and discussed in order to move forward in a healthy and supportive way. So if they're not capable of doing this, that's only going to lead to like a dumpster fire of a relationship down the road. So again, speak up about it. See if there's any openness or willingness there. Maybe this is a conversation they just haven't felt comfortable opening up with you about yet. But if that doesn't go well, then you got to get yourself out of there. So I'm curious if this has gotten your wheels turning. As you think back to past relationships, what are some red flags that revealed themselves early on in the relationship that you ignored? Share them in the comments below. Red flag number 4 is unhealthy relationships with others. So what is the nature of their relationship with their family, with their friends, with coworkers, with roommates? Do they seem to have a history of negative relationships or negative interactions with people? This can be a tricky one because yes, it is sometimes necessary to create boundaries with people in order to preserve our well-being. And yes, conflict arises in family and friends and all of our human relationships in our lives. However, if there seems to be a trend where there's a lot of conflict, there's a lot of drama in their life and the people that they engage with, chances are they're the common denominator. So you want to pay attention to this. This is a red flag because you don't want to get caught up in that drama and that negativity if this is the way that they continuously show up in their relationships. So if they're often sharing stories about how so-and-so did this and it's always everybody else's fault and they're not able to take any responsibility for their part in the equation, red flag. Because this is how they're going to behave in your relationship. If they're not able to take ownership or responsibility or accountability for the mistakes that they make, and we all make mistakes and that's okay, but if they can't take accountability for it, that's going to cause you a lot of problems down the road. So recognize this as a red flag and get yourself out of there if you want to be exempt from the drama in their life. Red flag number 5 is a lack of honesty and transparency. So think about when you ask them questions about their life or their history or their plans for the week. Are they open or are they evasive? Do they kind of squirm when you ask them direct questions, maybe about their relationship history? Do you ever catch them telling little white lies? Or maybe their story changes from one telling of it to another? Or maybe they're very protective of their phone. Do they deflect with questions or humor when you ask them questions about what they did that day? Now, we are all entitled to our privacy. In the example of the phone, I still ask my husband for permission to go into his phone, even though we have the same passwords. But if you get the sense that they're withholding information from you or not being entirely truthful, trust that intuition. So ask them point blank about it. I get the sense that you're not being entirely truthful with me, or you said X happened, but now you're saying that Y happened. So what's going on here? Now they may have a totally reasonable explanation for this, like maybe they're planning a surprise for you. But if they squirm or meet your questions with more evasiveness, then you might want to consider going forward with this person because it seems like they have a difficult time with honesty. And honesty and transparency is another foundational ingredient to a healthy and supportive relationship. So if this person is showing signs that they are incapable of that, then you're going to want to liberate yourself. Now, we covered just 5 relationship red flags that you want to keep an eye out for, but there are so many more, and a lot of them are very individual. We all have our own personal deal breakers, and those are valid. So if you want a deeper dive into this topic of relationship red flags, then I've created a document for you. It's the Toxic versus Healthy Relationship Behaviors Cheat Sheet, which is a mouthful, but it's a comprehensive list of relationship red flags to keep an eye out for, as well as healthy behaviors, green flags to keep an eye out for, so that you can use that as a guide as you're navigating the murky territory of dating. And within this, I include some prompts to really help you check in with yourself. Like, how is this feeling to you? Is this feeling like a red flag or not? Because again, it's very individual. So you want to make sure that you are clear on what does and doesn't work for you. So you can download that through the description in the link below. It's free. And if you have any questions or comments on anything that I've shared with you today, please drop those in the comments below. I always keep an eye on those, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have or just engage in a conversation. And if you like this video, give it a like, share it with a friend that you think could benefit, subscribe to my channel for more videos on the topic of welcoming healthy love into your life after a history of toxic relationships. All right, that's all for now. Sending love.